YouTube, I got a deck for you that's completely free to play in the event. No resources spent, and you can do really well with it. And it is Ice Barrier. Now, if you've not played Ice Barrier before, it operates a lot like Virtual World, which, if you've ever played that deck, it's just a bunch of synchro spam, and it's extenders from the hand. This is the event version, so obviously it's a bit watered down, but overall, it's still really, really good. We're basically playing 9 main starters. I say 9 main because there are starters in the deck that are starters if you open up other cards to go with it, which you will, but, well, I should say 12. There's 12 because this is technically a starter too, your Ice Jade. So, I'm going to go over the starters, then we'll talk about what the rest of the Ice Barrier cards do. So, some of the Ice Barrier cards that you're going to notice have additional effects that generally, like, give your opponent a disadvantage while they're on the field. And alongside that, Ice Barrier has some really incredible boss monsters too. So let's talk about it. Alright, so the first starter is Hexa. So basically Hexa on summon sends, not on summon, but when it's on the field, can send any Ice Barrier card from deck to graveyard. Any level 3 or lower Ice Barrier monster, not any Ice Barrier card. Any level 3 or lower Ice Barrier monster from deck to grave. Yeah, so that's really, really good. Also, while it's on the field, all your opponent's monsters lose 500 attack and defense while you control another Ice Barrier. Not while it's on the field, but while you control another Ice Barrier. So this is really good because this will allow you to send Mirror Mage to the graveyard, which we're going to go over in a second. But basically, it sends Mirror Mage, which gets you through your whole combo. Next, we're going to go over Revealer. So Revealer, not on summon, but while on the field, can discard a card. Special summon an Ice Barrier Tuner out of the deck. So this is either going to summon your Gregorius or your Mirror Mage most of the time. Sometimes you'll end up summoning Hexa and then using Hexa to send Mirror Mage. And then Mirror Mage, which will set you your Speaker if you have a good way to revive it. So like that could be a 2-card combo if you open up like Gregorius. And then you can still do your Croco Draw 4, which I will show you all that in a second. But yeah, Revealer being really, really good just in general. Yeah, fantastic card. Also, while it's in the graveyard, if you were to tribute, or if you were to discard or send a card from your hand to the graveyard to activate an Ice Barrier effect, you can banish this card instead of descend. So if you activate something like Brio can banish this card instead, and then you don't have to discard a card from your hand. So it's really, really good. And that's also very important in the mirror match, because in the mirror match, you can out there Lancia by just using Brio, and it plays around their Ice Jade Remora too. So keep that in mind. Okay, next we run, and I'm going to include this. This is just the main starter medallion. Basically, you search any Ice Barrier from deck to hand, and then last but not least, I'm including this as a starter because this is an instant Lancia. Use this Ice Jade Rand Regain. Discard a card for a water monster from hand, especially on the level 3 Ice token, and then this can make your Lancia right off the bat. So right away. That's about 12 1-card starters, not including Mirror Mage, which is not a 1-card starter, but it's in the event, but it is a 2-card starter with this deck. So Mirror Mage contribute 1 other effect monster, special summon up to 3 Ice Barrier tokens, level 1. If you do increase this card's level by that number, also you cannot special summon from the extra deck except for water monsters, water synchro monsters. So this card does lock you when you use the effect. However, you're going to most of the time just spam them out a ton of water synchros anyway. Your main play is going to be making Croco Dragon as a draw 4. Then you're going to make your Lancia. Sometimes you'll end up making, an additional synchro like your Ice Jade alongside it. So really, really good. So what this does is, like I said, tribute another monster, special summon up to 3 Ice Barrier tokens, and then increase this card's level equal to the amount of tokens summoned. So if you summon 2, it goes up by 2. 3, it goes up by 3. And then what you can do is, all the tokens being level 1, you would tune this off with your level 1, go Coral, then get a search off this if you haven't already, meaning that you didn't start off with Hexia, Hexia the Ice Barrier, and you started off with this into like Speaker, then you would get a search, and then you could search like Freezing Chains or Winds, and then combo off with that. So really, really good. And like I said, when this card's sent to the graveyard, you could search any Ice Barrier card from deck to hand. Very, very good. Now on to another extender in the deck. We run Gregorius Swordsman of the Ice Barrier. So basically, this card's fantastic. While you control any other Ice Barrier monster, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects of monsters in the graveyard. So if you summon this off of Lancia, this will floodgate your opponent out of monsters in the graveyard. So if you go up against something like Tearlament, this is going to be very, very frustrating for them. So they can't activate the Fuse in the graveyard, so this will completely shut down Tearlament. And this will shut down any card or effect that wants to activate in the graveyard. I mean, like, I'm talking about if you're playing like Ice Barrier in general, not if you're playing an event. So this will shut down things like Tearlaments in the graveyard. This can shut down things like, Tearlaments, Flamberge Dragon that wants to activate in the graveyard. Anything that wants to activate in the graveyard, this will shut down. So very, 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 very good to have for just cards and effects that want to activate in the graveyard. They won't be able to. And then the best thing about this card is not even that. If you control an Ice Barrier, you can special summon this from the amp. And when this is normal special summon, target one level 5 or lower Ice Barrier in your graveyard, special summon. So if you've played Virtual World, think of Lao. This is just like that. You know, if you control, basically, you know, like I said, if you control a Virtual World spell or trap, you target, and then you special summon your Lao, and then you would summon back a Virtual World from the grave. This is basically that, but more because this can floodgate your opponent in the graveyard. So that's really, really good. So like I said, this is basically a walking Abyss Dweller. Think of it like that. This is basically walking Abyss Dweller. So really, really good. If this card is normal or special summon, like I said, you can target a level 5 or lower Ice Barrier in the grave. So really, really good. Alright, on top of that, you go into General Raiho. Now this is another like floodgate. Basically summon this off Lancia. When an opponent's monster effect is activated in the field, they must discard one card of their choice. So keep in mind this as on resolution. So let's say they go to destroy your monster, then this won't activate because this has to proc on resolution. But like I said, anything that they go and activate, they have to keep discarding a card, which can be really annoying for them. This is not once per turn. Kind of floodgates your opponent a bit. So really, really good. On top of that, we're playing, the deck runs Gantala. This never gets summoned during the end phase. You get to summon an Ice Barrier from your graveyard. Then you have Daishojo. Ice Barriers cannot be destroyed by spell and trap effects. This almost never comes out. Secret cards cannot target Ice Barriers with monster effects. Again, rarely these come out. You probably wouldn't play this in the main deck. This one you might. While you control another Ice Barrier, monsters cannot declare an attack if their attack is greater than equal to this card's effects. So again, this will protect your floodgates from getting swung over. And this in combination with something like, you know, your Ice Jade can make it very hard for your opponent to deal with certain things that are on your field. So keep that in mind. Okay. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about some of the other cards in the deck. Freezing Chains targets a level 4 or lower Ice Barrier in your graveyard. Special summons it. And while you control 3 or more Ice Barrier monsters, Ice Barriers are unaffected by the activated effects of monsters that were special summoned from the extra deck. So if you play Duel Links, obviously you know about Rapid Trigger and Boiler Riot Dragon having that same effect. But, you know, this card basically can make them unaffected while you control 3 or more. And then anything from the extra deck, they cannot be affected by. So, yeah. Very, very important. Very good. But mainly, it's for you to Monster Reborn. That's the main purpose of this card. And then we have Winds Over the Ice Barrier. Tribute any amount of Ice Barrier monsters, including tokens. This card is really good. You can also combo this with Mirror Mage and just tribute the tokens. Special summon from your deck at that many level 4 or lower Ice Barriers with different names from each other. So really, really good. Just like summon out a bunch of bodies. During your main phase, except the turn this is sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Target one of your Ice Barriers that are monsters that are banished in your graveyard, add to your hand. So this is follow-up for the following turn. And then, I forgot to talk about Speaker. So Speaker can special summon itself when you control an Ice Barrier. And while this card is in the graveyard, you can banish it to special summon an Ice Barrier token. Level 1, 0 attack, 0 defense. So, very, very good. And then last but not least, the 2 traps. Ice Barrier, when an attack is declared involving your opponent's monster, change that monster's attack to 0, negate its effects, cannot change its battle position. You can banish this card from your graveyard, send 1 level 5 water monster or higher from deck to grave, then add 1 water monster from graveyard to amp. And then it locks you in the water. So basically, if you send this to the graveyard in any way, or this card to the graveyard because you used it, You could send like a General Wayne and a General Wayne back. You could send a Gregorius and a Gregorius back. And then domain, your opponent cannot activate cards and effects in response to your Ice Barrier effects. But mainly, if your opponent summons out of the extra deck, then you can shuffle an Ice Barrier on your field or return it to the hand to bounce that monster back into the bottom of the deck, or a card in their graveyard, I should say. So one card in the field or in their graveyard to the bottom of the deck. So you can only use Frozen Domain once per turn. Now, another thing you need to know is that you have Terra Trishula, and this is the last card I'm going to go over in the main deck. Basically, up to your number of Ice Barriers you control, monsters you control, Ice Barriers, Synchros, I should say. Synchro monsters you control, you can apply the following effects. If you control 1, banish 1 card your opponent controls. 2, banish 1 card your opponent's graveyard. And this is in sequence. So, this is a lot like Squire Saga if you played Duel Links before. Basically, these will activate in sequence. So, the first effect will come first, the second effect, and then the third. So, you banish 1 card your opponent controls. If you have 2, then you can banish a card your opponent controls to have 1 in the grave. And then 3, if you have 3, you can banish 1 card in the grave, 1 card in their hand, and 1 card they control. So, it's meant to symbolize Trishula. Also, if your opponent activates a card in the graveyard that targets an Ice Barrier Synchro, you can banish this to negate that effect. Keep in mind this is a when, so it can miss the timing, so keep that in mind. Alright, now on to the Synchro monsters. Brio, if you've played TCG or OCG long enough, you probably already know what this card does. Discard any amount of cards to the graveyard that target cards that your opponent controls. Up to that same amount, return those cards to the hand. So if you discard 2, you can bounce 2. Discard 3, you can bounce 3. Remember, reveal it can banish itself instead of discarding one of those cards, so keep that in mind. DeLorean, you almost never make this. You can target any amount of cards up to the face-up cards you control. Return those cards to the end, and this card gains 500 attack. For each card return until the end phase. Coral Dragon, level 6, pops a card in the field if you discard a card. Also, when it's sent from field to grave, draw a card. This is Brionic, the Magical Dragon, the Ice Barrier. On Synchro Summon, you can discard 1 card, then target 1 card in the field, return it to hand. And if this is Special Summon from the graveyard, you can do the same thing. Discard 1 card, then target a card in the field, return it to the hand. Gungier can discard up to 2 cards to the graveyard to target the same amount of cards your opponent controls and destroy them. White Aura Whale is a level 8. If this is Synchro Summon, you can destroy all of your opponent's attack position water monsters. All your opponent's attack position monsters. Then this can attack twice during the battle phase, and this will do piercing damage. And if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect that's sent to the graveyard, you can banish 1 other water monster in your graveyard, special summon this as a tuner. Then you have Enga Master Packbet. This is a generic Cyber Synchro. It's a Synchro Summon card. If this is Synchro Summon or sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls or in your graveyard. Discard 1 card and then place that into your opponent's spell and trap as continuous trap. So you can do that. That could be a creative way to out things like, Lancia. And during the either player's turn, if this card is a continuous trap, you can special summon 1 face-up monster from your spell and trap zone. So it can summon itself too if you put it there. Now next, we have Trishula. Basically, everyone should know what this card does. When this is Synchro Summon, you can banish 1 card up to from your opponent's hand, field, or graveyard. And you don't need to meet all the conditions. This is the Necroza Trishula. This is just Trishula. Krako Dragon gains 500 attack and defense for each card in the end. And then if this card is Synchro Summon, you can draw as many cards up to the number of non-tuners used. You can do a draw 4 with this in Coral Dragon. And then quick effect, you can discard 2 cards to destroy a card in the field. Shang Ying, this is a Sword Soul card. So basically, for each banished card, this card gains 100 attack and defense, and monster your opponent controls lose 100 attack and defense. If this is destroyed by a card effect, you can banish a card from your grave instead. And if cards are banished, you can just banish 1 card each from your opponent's field and graveyard. Ice Shade Jimor Origin is a really good monster for the deck. Basically, quick effect, you can activate this effect. Face-up monsters you control cannot be destroyed or banished by your opponent's card effect. Now, very importantly, this will not stop evenly matched. So you might see even let me match get resolved and you're going to be like, huh? Now, the reason why this doesn't stop evenly matched is because evenly matched is by your own effect. Crazy enough, that banishes due to your own doing. Not because of your opponent's card effect, but because you're banishing the card. So it affects the player, not the opponent. Okay, so that's very important because you're actually choosing what cards to banish. So keep that in mind. Alright? However, if cards would be destroyed or banished on the field, they cannot this turn. And then if you activate this card in response to your opponent's card effect, then you get to banish one, basically a card of the same name that they have in the field or graveyard. So basically, if they activate a card in the field, you can banish it. That's more or less what you need to know. This is like Draco Berserker almost. Think Draco Berserker. This is almost like Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. Very similar if they activate something on the field. But it will also protect your cards. Also, this card is banished by your opponent's card effect while this card is... Oh no, if cards are banished by your opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this. So very, very good. And you can only use the effect of Arduine once per turn. Alright. Then we have the best boss monster in the deck, Lancia. So Lancia is absolutely incredible. This is a water tuner plus one or more non-tuners. Once per chain, if your opponent special summons a monster except during the damage step, you can special summon any ice barrier monster from your hand deck or extra deck or graveyard. Then you can change one attack position monster your opponent controls the defense position. And you can use this effect twice per turn. So this is absolutely incredible because you can summon the one that the floodgate over here, General Raiho, that will start making them discard for every effect they activate, and you can also summon out your Gregorius, which will also prevent them from activating cards or effects in the graveyard. So really limiting their place, and you can use this effect twice per turn, which is absolutely insane. Then, also if this card would be removed from the field, unless it like spins it back into the deck, then you can special summon any Ice Barrier monster from your extra deck, and that is treated as a Synchro Summon. So if they get rid of this and you summon out like a Trishula or a Trish Zero, then it will get that effect, which is absolutely incredible. Now keep in mind, this is not treated as an Ice Barrier monster, so if you summon this, you can't extend it with Raiho or summon Gregorius, because it's not an Ice Barrier, which is really weird. It's Ice Mountain, but keep that in mind. Next is Trish Zero. So Trish Zero, when this card is Synchro Summoned, you can banish up to 3 cards on your opponent's field that does not target. Also, if this card is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can, or by battle, special summon Trishula from the extra deck, OG, negate all their monsters' effects on the field, and then half their attacks. Well, very, very good. Okay, now onto the replays. Onto the replay I'm going to show you guys. I want to show you guys one replay here. And this should explain the main combo line of the deck. Okay, so this is right from the event. I'm actually going to change the combo up here. Okay, so this is a 2-card combo. If you ever have access to Speaker or Mage, this is what you can do. So what you're going to do is you're going to summon out your Mage. Then you're going to summon Speaker. Then we're going to activate Mage's effect to summon out the 3 tokens. Then since Mage is a level 5, we're going to Synchro Summon into Coral Dragon. Then we're going to activate Mirror Mage from the graveyard to search out. Here we chose to search the traps so we can have extra disruption. Then we use the effect of our Speaker and Grade to summon a token. Then we're going to activate and summon Gregorius, because we added in him. If you don't have Gregorius in him, then you can opt to search Gregorius instead of searching the trap. I just chose to do it because we already had Gregorius. Then we get to summon Croco Dragon and Coral Dragon. Now Croco, since we used 3 tokens that were non-tuners to summon it, can draw 3 cards, and then Coral will also draw us another card. So this is a draw 4. Now depending on what you draw into, you can extend. Here we drew into Ice Jade, so we could summon out our Ice Jade. And then we can go into Lancia. And then we chose to make a white or a whale on top of it. Set 2. And then pass our turn. Now here, before we get even lead, we had a Pop 2, a Lancia, an Imperm, and a Frozen Domain. Now, some of these cards are not guaranteed, but if you generally will draw into an extender of some sort, most of the time. If not, then what you could choose to do is like end on Croco plus like Croco plus another Ice Barrier monster, and then which is pretty much guaranteed. Like you can go Croco and then summon like another Ice Barrier monster, depending on what you draw into. Like I said, it highly depends on what you draw into prior. But like I said, if I don't have the trap, I would get Gregorius into play instantly. And like I said, this is a free play version, so if we were running more of a pay-to-win version of this deck, then we probably want more wins to make it more consistent that you draw another extender as well. So we do get even lead. But yeah, I wanted to show you the main combo line of the deck. We'll watch the rest of the replay. I'm fast forward. So here we float the Trish. We banish here his transaction rollback. I might try to make an Ice Barrier account. And we'll see how that goes. You know, I'm not going to show the whole replay because otherwise this will take forever. This replay was very long. Otherwise this replay will take forever and this video will be way too long for you guys to want to watch. Okay, so that's the video. Wanted to keep this short and simple. If you haven't followed already, follow me on twitch.tv/Sean Matrai. We're going to play more Voiceless Voice tonight. So if you're interested in seeing that deck, make sure you follow me on twitch.tv/Sean Matrai. We will be back to Duel Links soon. I guarantee you by the end of the week. Alright? Yeah. But if you enjoyed the video, you know, like, comment, sub. Thank you guys. Bye, YouTube.